again. Hope everyone is doing well, inshallah, tonight. Let's continue where we left off from last week, inshallah. And the slide that you see here is what we kind of covered so far. These words. Okay. Bismillah. So yeah, these are some words that we covered already. 6 words so far, but alhamdulillah, they repeat a lot in the Quran. So they are pretty frequent and common words throughout the Quran. Inshallah, we'll try to cover 3 more words today. So these 6 words that you see on the screen right now, these were all demonstrative pronouns, right? That you use, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala use these words in the Quran to indicate towards something or indicate to something. A noun, a person, or an object, or a thing, or a place, right? Hada, dhalika, haulai. These are all for nouns, right? A demonstrative pronoun used to indicate towards a noun. And we did all the examples, or we did some examples for each of these words. And if you've read the Quran in the past week or so, I'm sure you came across these words as well throughout the Quran as well. The next 3, inshallah, that we'll be covering, inshallah, are the relative pronouns, right? And they are used to they're used kind of like an adjective to kind of describe the noun, right? And then when we do the examples, you'll understand it more, inshallah. But before we get into that, let's just go over a little revision as well of what we did previously so far, just to keep it in our minds and to reinforce it for us, inshallah. So the next slide here is one of the examples that we did. As you can see, for the one that's highlighted in red, which is ha'ula'i, right? So qalu inna ha'ula'i ladallun, right? That they would say, qalu, they would say, inna, indeed, and then ha'ula'i, whatever that means, ladallun, are surely astray. That, it's indicating towards a group of people, right? So can anyone, inshallah, tell me what the ha'ula'i means here in this verse?
These are.
Yeah, perfect. MashaAllah. Right? So yeah, these are, so it's referring, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is referring to a group of people, right? That they would say, indeed, ha'ula'i ladallun, that these people, whatever the criteria, the criteria of what they did, all the sins or the disobedience, ladallun, these are surely astray, right? That these people here, so it's indicating towards something that's close by. And then we also mentioned that ha'ula'i is used for both, right? For male and female. This is a plural for male and female. Right, so perfect, right? These are. They would say, indeed, these are surely the astray group of people, the astray people. Right, perfect, mashallah. And then the next example, also what we did, last week as well, that ulaika hum khayrul bariyah, right? And Surah Bayyinah, the 30th juz, that ulaika, whatever that means, whom they are, just to emphasize that. That's also whom is also a pronoun that maybe we'll come across later. And then khayrul, the best, just like khayr in Arabic or Urdu, khayr, the best. Al-bariyah, the creatures, right? The land dwellers, creatures. So ulaika, it either means these people or those people, right? So ulaika hum khayrul bariyah, that whatever group it's talking about, those people are the best of creatures, right? It is those that they are the best of creatures. That's referring to something kind of far away. So even in the Arabic language, if you would ever use it, inshallah, in the future, it means something that's not close to you, but further away. Next is another example of ha'ulai, right? So just now we know what the meaning of ha'ulai is. Qala ha'ulai banati, right? That Lut alayhi salam said that these are my daughters, right? And then, same thing like I mentioned, ha'ulai is used for male or female. Ha'ulai, over here in this verse in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses for his, uses ha'ulai for feminine, because banati is being referred to here, right? And another example that we went over last week was, inna ha'ulai dhayfi, that these are my guests, right? Referring to the angels, referring to a masculine noun. So used for both, right? So haula'i and ulaika, they're both used for male and female, and it's for plural, right? So those are just some examples that we went over. Just want to go over them again, and then inshallah today, so we'll be covering these three relative pronouns, or in Arabic ismul mawsul, and they describe the noun, right? So if there's a noun there, for example, a man, right? So in English, if you say something like the man that came, so alladhi, would be the that in that sentence, or he who came, right? That's someone that came by the masjid a couple of times. We'll say, ar-rajulu, ar-rajulu alladhi, who came to the masjid, right? So it's referring to that noun, or it's going to describe that noun. So it's kind of like an adjective, like you describe something of a person. So it's going to describe that noun, whether that noun is male or it's female or it's plural, right? So all three are mentioned here. That number one is alladhi for masculine for the male, that he who, whether it's the man who, or whether it's a masculine noun like al-kitabul ladhi, right? That the book, that which, or whatever the book's quality is, or yeah, so that's alladhi for a masculine noun, person, object, or place. And then allati is for female, right? So very similar, just the difference between the two letters of dal and ta, right? Alladhi, for male, and allati with the ta for female. And this is kind of like, it's pretty common to see that as well, like ta, the letter ta in Arabic, constantly being used for a feminine word, right? Just like I mentioned before too, like, and as you guys all know that the end of a word sometimes might have that circle ta, right? The what you call the goal ta, or the round ta. That is a sign, that is an indicator that that word is feminine, right? So whether it's a circle or round ta, whether it's a long ta, like for example, the Quran, sometimes it comes, ni'mat with a long ta, right? Or rahmat, right? The rahmah, like the mercy of Allah, rahmat, with also a long ta. Sometimes it comes, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it'll come with a circle ta as well. And in other words as well, right? Sometimes we add a ta at the end of a verb to meet to describe a female's doing something. Like for example, if like we know the word kitab now, the kitab means book. So the verb of that is kataba, right? Kataba means a male is writing, or he wrote something, right? Kataba rajulun, that a man wrote. So if you use that same word or that same verb for a female, then all we have to do is like add a ta to that, right? Katabat, imra'atun, or katabat, Aisha or Khadija, right? So we're gonna add that ta at the end of a verb sometimes too, to denote a feminine verb or feminine word, right? So that ta is common constantly used in Arabic to kind of denote ta's feminine words, not all the time, but most of the time. So similarly in this case as well. So alladhi is for masculine, and then allati with the ta, there's a little slight difference, would be for feminine. So allati referring to a person, a female, or an object or a place that also is in the female form in Arabic. So for example, like we did before, ummatun, which means nation, like the ummah of the Prophet Muhammad. Ummatun, that is a female word because of that circle ta at the end, right? So we could use allati over here. Allati could be used for that word, that ummatun allati, that came after the prophet or something, right? Or that came after a different prophet, right? So allati would be the perfect, or the correct word to use for ummatun, right? But you cannot use like allati for kitab, or masculine, or a masculine noun, or a male person, right? So that's strictly for that, for a feminine word or feminine noun, right? So alladhi and allati, masculine and feminine. And then the alladhina would now include both of them, and be the plural of that those who, right? So whether it's a group of people, male and female, or just male or just female, alladhina would be the correct word to use for that. And now we'll see some examples of these words being used in the Quran as well. So this is an overview of the examples. We'll break them down as well, like we usually do. So yeah, the noun here is alladhi, and then which means he who or which. So if it's referring to a person, a male person, then he who, right? And then if it's referring to a non-living, a noun, an object or a place, then which, right? Would be, the word, the word that's being translated to. For example, the book which contains, guidance, right? Al-Quran alladhi fihi, hidayah, right? That, so that book that which contains guidance, right? And if it's referring to a man or a male person, living person, then it will be like he who, that man, that person, that man who came to the masjid, again and again, right? He who came to the masjid, right? And and right now the example that we have here is actually regarding shaitan, right? That in Surah Nas, alladhi yuwaswisu fi sudurin nas. Alladhi yuwaswisu fi sudurin nas. That he who puts temptations, right? Yuwaswisu, he makes waswasa, he whispers into the ear of human beings, and he puts temptations fi inside sudurin nas, in the in the breasts, inside human beings, right? That in their hearts. So alladhi, is referring, is the relative pronoun that's referring to shaitan, who's not mentioned. Shaitan already mentioned before, right? قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس, right? So khannas is that noun that we're referring to. So min شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس, right? So the noun is not mentioned in this verse, but it's mentioned before in the previous, the previous verse. So alladhi is now referring back to that noun, right? Who is shaitan, right? So as we all know, that shaitan is the one who whispers into the hearts of mankind. So alladhi, he who puts waswasa, or puts temptations into the people's hearts, in the breasts of humans. Okay, and then allati, the next example, she who, right, referring to a female person, living, creature, or a female object or place, which, right, female. The example we have here is هذه النار التي كنتم به تكذبون كنتم بها تكذبون هذه النار التي كنتم بها تكذبون. This is the fire which you used to deny, right? So the noun here is if I can ask you guys, is the noun inside of the verse, or is the noun being referred to somewhere else? Is the noun in here in the verse? هذه النار التي كنتم بها تكذبون. التي, which is the relative pronoun that we're looking at, right? Which is referring back to the noun. Is that noun in the verse, or is it talking about something previously mentioned? Maybe. Does anyone know that?
Nar
The fire.
nar is not the noun. Nar.
Okay, and there's someone also saying something as well. Let's just try to hear from everybody.
Nar.
Yeah. So and there's someone else saying something else as well, or no? Okay, perfect. Yeah, mashallah. Yeah. So yeah, annar. Yeah, that's correct, right? Mashallah. هذه النار التي, right? So allati is referring back to annar, which is the fire, right? So nar, in Arabic, which means fire, nar is a feminine a noun, right? Because it might not look like a feminine noun, but it is a feminine. Some feminine nouns don't have the characteristics of being a feminine noun. Like for example, I mentioned the circle ta, or the long ta, and there are other I guess indicators as well that we'll probably learn down the line, inshallah. But hadihi nar is also feminine, right? This is a feminine word, so allati will be used for that, right? So hadihi nar allati kuntum biha tukadhibun. This is the fire which. So allati is being translated here as which you used to deny, tukadhibun, takdhib, right? Okay, and then moving on, because we'll break these down as well as we go the next slides. Alladina, right? So there's two examples of alladina I just brought that just for more clarity. That alladina, which means those who, for plural, for both masculine and feminine. So two examples here. Number one is alladina hum an salatihim sahun. Alladina hum an salatihim sahun. Right? Surah Ma'un, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, those who, alladina, those who are, whom also means who, an salatihim, from their prayers, sahun are heedless, right? That they are negligent, and they're not paying attention, and not praying their salawat on time, or at all, right? Alladina, so those who, right, referring to that group of people, yeah, and anyone can fit in that, whether it's a male, whether it's a female, whether it's Abdullah or Khadija, anyone can fit into that group, if they're not praying or if they're negligent, right? So that's for plural for both men and women. And then alladina, again, another example is alladina hum yura'un, right? Same surah, that those who show off, right? Alladina, those who yura'un, who show off, who show other people, and just for showing off, whether it's their good deeds, whether it's their charity, whether it's their prayer, or they just show off other materialistic things in this world, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about that group of people, that those who alladina, whether it's male or female, they show off, right? So alladina is, it's going to be more used for like living, creatures, living creation, more than an object or a place, right? Inshallah. So yeah, let's break this surah down again. Like so, the example of alladhi, referring to shaitan in Surah Nas, that alladhi, he who yuwaswisu, he whispers evil temptations, waswasa, fi, into, fi, right? Fi is also a very common and frequent word used a lot, and then that's going to come inshallah later on when we cover some of the huruf, like I mentioned earlier in the first session. Like harf means letter, and there's lots of different kinds of huruf that come within the Quran that are used all the time, like in every verse, right? So if you learn a few of these, that means you know like thousands of words from the Quran already. So fi, into or inside, sudur, the plural of sadr, which means your chest, your hearts, your breast, meaning the hearts inside of you. Shaitan whispers into that so that people can become astray and then do bad things. Annas, right? As we all might know, that annas means humans, right? People, ya ayyuhan nas, right? Oh people. So shaitan is the one who whispers into the people, right? So shaitan, the noun, or shaitan himself, or his name or title, is not mentioned in this verse, but it's mentioned in the previous verse. And then alladhi is brought to refer back to that, right? So instead of saying, so the previous verse was, min sharril waswasil khannas, that, oh Allah, protect us, from the evil of the whispers of khannas, right? So instead of saying, instead of starting this verse again with khannas again, and instead of saying that word again, Allah just refers back to the word or to that noun, or in other words, to shaitan, by saying alladhi, right? So these are used to refer back to the nouns, easily, and there's a flow to it as well, right? Alladhi yuwaswisu fi sudurin nas, referring back to shaitan, right? Another example here, I guess, that I had is from Surah Alaq, alladhi allama bil qalam, right? So this is referring back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alladhi, he who, allama, taught, be, with or by the pen. Al-qalam, the pen, right? So who taught, by the pen? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did, right? So we're referring back to Allah, right? So if you go from the beginning of the surah, اقرأ بسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم, right? وربك الأكرم. اقرأ, like meaning, recite. وَرَبُّكَ, and your Lord. Akram is, the most noble, the most, kareem, right? And so وَرَبُّكَ, and even in the first verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already mentioned, اقرأ بِسْمِ رَبِّكَ, right? Read in the name of your Lord, right? Just like how we have, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of Allah. So, Rabb is already mentioned in the beginning of, the first 2-3 verses. So when we come to this verse number 4 of Surah Alaq, Allah just refers back to himself with alladhi. He doesn't say again, Rabbu, like Rabbuka, or let's see, we could say like, it would also make sense to say Rabbuka allama bil qalam, that your Lord taught by the pen. But instead of saying that, Allah just referred back to him using this relative pronoun alladhi, by saying alladhi, he who, that your Rabb was already mentioned before. Now we're just referring back to your Rabb by saying alladhi, right? So that's just how it works, in the Quran, and even just normal Arabic grammar as well. Alladhi allama bil qalam, he who taught by al qalam, the pen, right? So this is used in reference to a masculine singular noun, right? So these were examples of actual I guess beings, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is like the supreme being. He's our Lord, is our God. And then alladhi yuwaswisu was referring back to shaitan, but this can also be used for objects as well, inshallah. So maybe Hopefully next week maybe I might have different examples to show you how it's used for an object, maybe in the Quran, if I come across some examples, inshallah. Objects or places as well, right? In the Quran, it comes, multiple times that allati is used for, places or a different non-living noun, right? Non-living creature, creation.
Excuse me. Al
Yes.
is also, al means
Al,
al is also the.
are you talking about like the al
In the
from
first,
alladhi?
yeah, correct. Yeah, it's al lazi, but in the first, or I think, yeah, the first lesson you said al is means the, the.
Yeah. So al will mean the when it's attached to a noun. So
Okay.
the over here, like alladhi is one word itself. It's not a noun. It's a relative pronoun, right? Or just say, for example, just to make it simple, it's just a pronoun. So alladhi is not a noun. So al, when it's attached to a noun, then it's gonna mean the. Like for example, if you look at this last example I gave, alladhi allama bil qalam, right? So this actually bil qalam is actually al qalam, right?
Al
B
qalam.
al qalam.
So
Yeah.
al
So
kitab.
qalam is the noun, and then
Al
yeah, al
kitab.
kitab.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so, yeah, same, right? Al kitab, the book. Al qalam, the pen, right? So al, when it's attached to a noun, then it's gonna mean the. But over here, this al is not the same as the alif lam mim for that's the nouns. Does that make sense? Okay, inshallah. Yeah. So this alladhi, or the other words allati, alladina, they're all one word. They're not, they're not separate. Two different, it's not a compound word where al is separate and then the noun is separate, right? For nouns, when al is attached, al is separate and then the noun is separate, right? So like qalam means pen, any pen. Kitab means any book, right? Any other noun, right? Like a jawal, right? Phone. Jawal means any phone. But when you attach the al to those words, al qalam, the pen, al kitab, the book, al jawal, the phone, right? So it becomes more specific. But these words, this al is not the same as that al, right? Alladhi and allati, alladina, they're all just one word itself, not compound word. Okay, inshallah. So the next slide, the next example of allati, right? So there's a few examples here, I guess, three examples. That the one we did in the previous slide was هذه النار التي كنتم بها تكذبون in Surah Tur. هذه, right? That already came in the first lesson, right? هذه, this is. And like we just mentioned earlier, that annar, the fire, is a feminine word, right? It's a feminine word throughout the Quran. In Arabic, it'll never be a masculine word. It'll always be a feminine word. So annar is feminine, and because of that, hadihi was brought, right? Because hadihi, like we talked about, hadihi means this is, and it refers to a feminine noun that's close by, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that hadihi nar, this fire, the one that's right there next to us, right? That's how close that's how close it is to people who deny Allah's commandments, right? So Allah is trying to kind of show kind of depict that picture for us, right? So hadihi is used because nar is feminine. If nar wasn't feminine, if it was masculine, then hada would have been used, right? So but hadihi is used because nar is feminine, and then the word that we're looking at here is allati. So this is the fire, allati, which kuntum, you used to, biha, regarding it, meaning regarding the fire, because they used to deny the hereafter, deny Jahannam and Jannah, and they wouldn't believe in that. So because they denied it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is now showing them in the day of judgment, this is the fire that you denied, right? This right here next to me, the one you're going to get thrown into, is the fire that they denied, right? So kuntum, you used to, biha, regarding it, tukadhibun, deny, right? That you denied it, right? So hadi, I guess these are three key words to remember here. That hadihi, that we did before, this is for feminine. An-nar is the feminine word that will come up, in the Quran multiple times, which means the fire. Usually always regarding, referring to Jahannam. Sometimes the word Jahannam will be brought. Sometimes nar will be brought, right? To talk about Jahannam, right? Allati is the the highlighted word that we're trying to learn here, which means which, right? That it's referring to the fire, a non-living creation, that which is referring to that, right? So for example, if allati wasn't here, So for example, if the ayah was هذه النار كنتم بها تكذبون, this is the fire you used to deny regarding it, right? So I mean, allati kind of completes the sentence, right? So it has to be brought in order to refer back to it, right? Whether, you know, it's usually brought, these relative pronouns alladhi, allati, and alladina are usually brought after the, you know, after the noun has been mentioned. So annar has been mentioned in the previous example when we're talking about, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, alladhi allama bil qalam. Allah was already mentioned before. Shaitan was already mentioned before in Surah Nas, and then alladhi was brought after that, right? So usually the noun is already mentioned, and then these relative pronouns are brought to refer back to it again. And then another two examples that we have here, Surah Rahman, hadihi, again, this is Jahannam. So now instead of being nar, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought Jahannam. So now we know that Jahannam itself, right, the hellfire, whether you refer to it, or whether Allah refers to it as nar in the Quran, or whether he refers to it as Jahannam, they're both feminine, right? That's why hadihi was brought. And that's why allati was brought, because nar and Jahannam are both feminine words. So this is the hell fire, allati, which yukadhibu, deny, takdhib, right? You deny it, biha, of it, you deny, regarding it or of it. Al-mujrimun, who denied it? Al-mujrimun, the criminals, right? People that were, disobedient, basically, or they weren't following commandments, etc. So this is the Jahannam that Allah will show them the Jahannam, and show them before they're thrown into it. This is what you denied, in the worldly life, right? So again, hadihi, this is Jahannam, allati, which, right? Which is referring back to Jahannam, the noun here. The next example, Surah Zukhruf, Allah says, وَتِلْكَ الْجَنَّةُ الَّتِي أُورِثْتُمُوهَا وَتِلْكَ الْجَنَّةُ الَّتِي أُورِثْتُمُوهَا, right? So wa means and, was going to come a lot throughout the Quran. Wa means and, right? Tilka, we did this before. Tilka means that, and it's referring to, again, a feminine noun, right? Hadihi, tilka, this and that, right? Referring to feminine nouns. And then over here, the word that is, the noun is Jannah, right? Paradise is also a feminine noun. Just like Jahannam and Nar was feminine, Jannat is also feminine as well, right? That's why a lot of girls, or a lot of people name their daughters Jannat, right? So, I mean, no one names their daughter Jahannam, and hopefully that doesn't happen. But Jannat is a very common name, and it's usually referred to, it's usually used for daughters and not for, sons, right? So Jannat is a feminine word. وَتِلْكَ Jannat, and that is the paradise. Allati, which is what? So now Allah's going to talk about what's, what, I guess, what's connected to that Jannat, or who's going to inherit it, or who's going to get it, or who's going to face it, right? Just like in the previous examples, people that denied, or the criminals, mujrimun, they had to, they were being connected to the noun, which was Jahannam or Nar, right? And now who's going to be connected to Jannat? Allati urithumuha, that you are made to inherit. So people that are, or whatever the criteria was before that, of, being a pious person, being, following commandments, praying salawat, etc. So those people are going to be the inheritors of Jannah, right? They're gonna, Allah's gonna grant them Jannah, basically, right? So watilkal jannatul lati, that is the paradise, allati, which you are made to inherit, right? So allati, again, was also, brought again to describe the noun, or refer to the noun, and then whatever comes after that, that relative pronoun, alladhi, or allati, or alladina, it's gonna connect the two. It's gonna connect that, I guess, that the result, or whoever receives Jannah, or whoever receives Jahannam, or whoever will be facing it, it connects it to that noun, which is Jannat or Jahannam, or whatever the noun is, right? Inshallah, right? So yeah, these were all examples for feminine, because allati is only referring to feminine nouns, right? And these were all examples of also non-living creatures, right? So just like a place, Jahannam, Jannat is going to be a place, and it's not referring back to a person, right? But allati can refer back to a person. So if you use it like, for a person, like a living person, like Aisha or Khadija, or for example, someone's name is Jannat, and you refer back to that female, then you would use allati, right? Okay. And then the last example, the last word that we're trying to do here today, inshallah, is alladhina. Alladhina now combines both of them for both masculine and feminine, and for plural, right? So it has to be more than, two people at least. Alladhina hum an salatihim sahun. That was the example that we were that we came across earlier. Alladina, those who are, meaning, or they are. Whom is also, like I mentioned, a pronoun as well, which is just referring to the people Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about in this verse. An is a harf, right? An is a letter, just like fi was, just like a wa was. Fi meant what fi means in or into, inside, and then wa meant and, right? So those are all huruf, harfs, and an is also a harf, right? So it means regarding or of, connected to, or it had different meanings depending on the context, right? But I think of is the most simplest one, right? Of, that you talk about something, you talk of something, or you refer to something, then use the word an. So like in this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about in regards to their salahs, or their prayers, right? Of their salahs, right? So alladina, those whom they are, or they are an salatihim, regarding their prayers, right? An, regarding, salatihim, their prayer. Salat is the actual noun. I mean, salat is also a noun, but not the noun that we're referring to for alladina. But the word is salat, and then the him is also a pronoun. So just like over here, for example, this might be kind of confusing, but whom over here, whom is the pronoun, like I mentioned, right? This is also a pronoun that sometimes comes alone like that. It comes alone, meaning alladina is separate, and then whom is separate as well from that. So then it comes alone sometimes, but then it also sometimes comes, joined to a noun, like salah. So the word salat is the noun, but then whom is also joined to it. So their salah, right? So depending on who it's referring to, if it's referring to only females, then a different pronoun will be used. That salatihinna, right? Only their prayers, meaning only females, females prayers, or salatuka, right? Your prayer, right? So at the end of it will change depending on who is referring to, right? But obviously this is referring to, since Allah already mentioned whom in the beginning, Allah's gonna always, since Allah mentioned whom in the beginning, Allah's gonna, say that again, and then refer that back to them again, right? Salatihim, their prayers, right? Who he's talking about, from alladina. So alladina, whom, and then salatihim, all those three things, alladina, whom, and then him again, those are all referring back to that group of people who don't pray, who are negligent of their prayers, right? So, and then the last word is, sahun, the adjective, right? The sifa, sahun, they're heedless, they're negligent, they're not punctual, right? So that that negligence, that heedlessness, is gonna refer back to alladina, and then it's gonna refer back to whom as well, those people that were negligent, and then also salatihim, right? The him in salat is also the same people that is referring back to, right? So those are all the same group of people. Allah just brings those different words to, like, for emphasis, and also to specify who salat is talking about. The salat of people who are negligent, right? Because only those people are, those people are the ones who are negligent. And if you're negligent, that means that's sinful, right? And not for those people who pray on time, not for those people who are punctual in their prayers, but specifically for those people who are negligent or heedless of their prayers, right? So alladina, the key word to look at here is alladina, those, right? Those people, referring to a group of people who are negligent of their salahs. The second example is similar to that, is alladina, another, again referring back to a specific group of people whom who yura'un, they show off, right? So those people who show off, those people who are negligent, right? Those are sinful acts that we should refrain from, right? Alladhina hum yura'un, that those people are those are the ones who show off, right? So the main thing to look at here is alladhina, that is referring to those people, and those alladhina could it encapsulates both, whether it's male or female, right? Anyone who falls into this category is already included in alladhina. So like another word doesn't need to be used for that. Like allati, like we said before, allati was used for feminine only, singular. But over here we won't use allati. We'll just use alladhina, even if it's for feminine people, right? Or even if it's for only a feminine group of people, or only a masculine group of people. But I mean that's not the case here. The case is anyone who fits their criteria of being negligent of their prayers, or anyone who shows off will, will get that result of, a sin, or, the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, etc. Whatever that criteria was of that. So yeah, that's just to explain that alladina is used for both man or male and female, and it's for plural. Alladhi, which was the first example, that was only used for a masculine, which is a singular, and allati was used for feminine, which was a singular as well. Yes, inshallah. So yeah, those are the three relative pronouns that we covered today, inshallah. Let's just quickly do like a revision real quick, inshallah, before we sign off tonight. So these are all the words that we kind of already did from the beginning of the thing. So I mean, whoever knows the answer can just quickly call it out, so we can keep this moving, inshallah. So we'll start from the right side. Allati, right? That we just did it. What does allati mean in English?
That female.
Right? Yeah. That, yeah. She, who, or which, right? That female, right? She, who, or like if it's she, who, that's referring to like an actual living, person, or which referring to a non-living object or place, right? Like sometimes in the Quran, allati is used for the word qarya. Qarya means like a village, right? So qaryatun has that circle ta at the end, which means qarya is a feminine word, right? So just like ummatun, right? Ummatun means nation, qaryatun means a village. So sometimes allati is used to refer back to qarya sometimes, which is like a whole village, a place, a noun, right? Yeah. And then the next word, alladina. What does alladina mean? I guess we just did alladina, right? That should be pretty easy. Perfect. Yeah. Those who, plural, right? Okay. Ulaika came from last week's lesson.
Those.
Yes.
Those.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So over here, I guess it might be kind of confusing. Like, okay, alladina means those who, and ulaika also means those, right? So the difference is that there are two different pronouns. Alladina was a relative pronoun, right? So alladina is going to be referring back to the noun, and ulaika was a demonstrative pronoun that is going to be referring to a specific group of people, but the noun before ulaika doesn't necessarily have to be mentioned, right? For like alladhi, alladina, or alladhi or allati, the noun is usually mentioned before in the in the previous verse, or previously in that paragraph in the Quran. And ulaika or haulai, whenever they come, usually they don't really maybe before that, maybe a quality or a criteria is mentioned, and then it's referring back to those people, right? So I guess the main difference is that it's a demonstrative noun, and the other one is a relative pronoun, right? Haulai. Oh, I already put the answer there. Okay, so haulai means these, right? These referring to also a indicative or demonstrative pronoun, right? Oh, keep doing that. Alladhi. Yeah, so we did alladhi as well. That he who, right? Which refers back to a masculine person or object or place, right? And dhalika. Do you guys remember what dhalika means? That. And is that masculine or feminine?
Masculine.
Masculine, yes. Yes, that's correct, right? Masculine, that's correct, mashallah. So that, they're both correct. That for masculine. So we're referring to a male person or a male object, right? So we won't refer back, like for example, if you're talking about a fire, you can't say dhalika nar, right? You can't say that is a fire, because fire in Arabic is a feminine word. So you would say the one right after that, tilka nar, which also means that, right? Tilka means that, feminine. So you'll say tilka nar or tilka jahannam, or for example, if you're saying paradise, tilka al jannah, right? Just like the verse came, tilka al jannatu allati uristumuha, right? So that, and then hadihi, the last one should be pretty easy. Hadihi, anyone? Don't be shy.
This is.
Yes,
That.
perfect. No, you're right the first time. This is, right? This is for, yeah, so feminine, right? Or masculine?
Feminine. Feminine.
Perfect. Yeah. What happened to it? Oh, it's not showing up.
No, it is showing up. It's looking good.
Oh, it is okay. That's not, I don't know. It's not showing up on my end. Okay, but yeah. So this is hadihi feminine, right? So obviously, like the colors was the pink is feminine, and then blue is masculine, and the yellow is plural. So that was just kind of indicate those the genders of it, right? So yeah. So that's how much we did. So so far we did like 9 words, and these 9 words actually they come so many times that it amounts up to 3,500 words from the Quran, just from these 9 words, right? So I mean, that's a lot of times the Quran, it comes in the Quran, and 3,500 words is approximately 5% of the Quran. So from 9 words, you already know like not 5% of the Quran. So I mean, that's a, I think that's a pretty good progress, right? That 5% of the Quran just from these basic, simple pronouns, right? And we didn't even get into any proper nouns or huruf or verbs or anything, just from these pronouns that come frequently and a lot throughout the Quran. That's 5% of the Quran, inshallah, already, and hopefully we can do some more before Ramadan as well, inshallah. Are there any questions on today's? That's all I have today for you guys. Are there any questions regarding anything? Is it easy to follow, easy to understand, or is anyone having a hard time, or am I going too fast?
It's fine.
Inshallah. Perfect. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, Jazakallah khairan for joining in, inshallah ta'ala. Yeah, hopefully we can all benefit from this. And I would definitely encourage everyone to, even if you read some Quran throughout the week, try to identify these words wherever they come. Hada, hadihi, tilka, ulaika, haulai, alladina, alladhi, allati. They're gonna come a lot throughout the Quran. Even the huruf that we did that we came across as well, right? Inna comes a lot too. Inna means indeed, right? Wa was gonna come everywhere, which means and, right? Fi into or inside or in, those are gonna come a lot throughout the Quran, and you can easily identify those and try to revise on your own as well. That okay, I know what this means. And just so it's reinforced in our minds, inshallah, right?
You
Inshallah, ta'ala, yeah.
get a lot. Khala and qalu. He said and they said.
Yeah, that's right. Qala, qalu, yeah, that comes a lot. I think qala comes, yeah, I think qala comes a lot. I forgot how many times I read somewhere it came a lot, like hundreds of thousands of times. Qala comes a lot, right?
He
Throughout
said.
the Quran. Yeah. MashaAllah. Yeah. So yeah, keep this in mind, inshallah, and as we move forward, we could learn more, inshallah, and then hopefully get to our, try to understand the Quran as we move forward, inshallah. Inshallah. Yeah. Jazakallah khairan, inshallah. So hopefully we'll see you guys next week, inshallah, and we'll move on to a different subject. So that whole chapter, like everything that we covered so far, was actually one chapter that was like split up into like 3 or 4 because I guess trying to digest the words. But next week we'll talk about a different chapter of words, inshallah ta'ala. Jazakallah khairan for joining in. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from all of us this this studying, the learning, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala use the Quran for a means to intercess for us on the day of Qiyamah, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala let the Quran come into our hearts and into our households, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of us, protect all of us, inshallah ta'ala, and grant us the highest abode in paradise, inshallah. Ameen.